Well, hello there. Good to see you today. I am here with Coach Ted Bear, and we're going to chat to you today about productivity and that wonderful thing that we sometimes get stuck on. Am I right? Uh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me, Ted.
Well,
It's so
thanks for
good to
having
see
me.
you. Yeah. So, Ted, let me just do a little intro. Coach Ted Bear works with entrepreneurs with ADHD whose businesses are suffering due to their struggle with their productivity, procrastination, disorganization, distraction, and he helps them get to the things that need to be done and required to actually to exceedingly succeed in your business so that you can make more money and have a happier life. So, welcome, Ted. How are you today?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks. And you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's good to have a chat with you. And Sandy says hello. Hey, Sandy, nice to see you. So, I just wanted to have a little chat because I'm curious. So, ADHD, like, what are the signs that would indicate that somebody may have ADHD?
Well, you actually mentioned the three of them right there. Uh, they procrastinate a lot, but they can't stop themselves from doing it, or they're really disorganized, like their desk is a mess, it's piled with papers. They can't find their keys. Very common thing for people with ADHD. They don't remember where they put them. Or they have trouble staying focused. That's a big issue for people with ADHD. They get easily distracted. So those are three of the main ones. There are other um, issues that people that use ADHD have, but those are the really main ones and the ones that particularly can impact their ability to get stuff done.
I can actually relate with a few of those things. I always know where my keys are because I put them back in the same spot, but I have trouble focusing sometimes and concentrating, and I get easily distracted, and I don't even want to show you my desk right now. So there's varying degrees of it, or
Well, yes, there certainly are like any sort of chronic condition. Um, there are some are more serious. But one thing that some people will say, well, don't we all have ADD? Because and in a way, this is a very ADD culture in the U.S. particularly. But we have all these different electronic things, phones and tablets and laptops and all that stuff, which can give us all issues. But there really is a big difference between somebody who has some of those issues and somebody with ADHD. And uh, it's just the issues are bigger and and deeper
Hmm,
and more consistent.
right. Yes, and would somebody self-identify as having ADHD? I mean, or would they even know? Like,
Well, certainly. I mean, I've worked with people who suspect they have it. They've not been, there is a way for people to get medically evaluated. I don't do that. I'm a coach.
hmm,
I'm not a medical professional, but um, yeah, I definitely have know people who think they have it, pretty sure they have it. For one reason or another, aren't interested in actually being evaluated.
mm-hmm.
Um, but being evaluated can be really helpful for two reasons. One is then and then you can look back and people, when they get evaluated kind of later in life rather than as a child, sometimes it makes them really angry, like, oh my God, look at all this time that got eaten up. But often
Mm,
it's a relief to
yeah.
know why certain things happen. And those things happen not because there's something wrong with them, they're deficient. It's because of the ADHD. And the other thing is it does make people um, eligible for medication, which helps about 80% of the people who take it. Not everybody, and not
Hmm.
to the same extent, but I always recommend people at least give it a try to see if it will help the particularly with focus.
Right. So, how do you work with people then? So, you're a coach. So, can you share a little about that?
Sure. Um, well, when I start with an entrepreneur who is having these productivity issues, um, one of the first things I'll do is explore with them what is it that's in their way. Which of those various uh, symptoms of and not just the three that we mentioned, but others. What is blocking them from getting the stuff done that they need to? Another symptom, by the way, is uh, it's very hard for us to get motivated to do things we don't really want to do that aren't interesting or aren't important to us. Which is, every business has those. Like,
Hmm.
ask someone with ADHD about doing their taxes.
Oh,
It's a big, it's a big struggle because like they're not any fun. Um, but so anyway, do kind of work with them to assess what's going on with them, uh, and then work with coming up with strategies uh, for them to be able to start being more productive, getting those things done that are really important for a successful business, and so they can move forward and be more successful, as you're saying. And for instance, procrastination is a big issue for a lot of people. Obviously, we call it it's the later. Everything's later. I'll do it later. I'll do it tomorrow. But tomorrow never comes, right? And it
mm,
can be it can be very challenging for people to overcome that. But there are strategies. Um, for instance, one is having a setup for accountability with
hmm,
with somebody, uh, an accountability buddy that you check in with, or you say, okay, call them up and say, okay, for the next hour, I'm going to be doing this, and I'll let you know when I'm done. That changes the ball game because now you got somebody else that you've committed to doing it and who knows that you're going to check in with them. It's harder than to say, God, I don't want to call back Jerry and say I didn't do it, right?
yeah.
So, I mean, that's just one of, uh, I don't know, I think I have a list of about 15, 16 different strategies for people that uh, to use depending on what's going on with them or what's going on with them at any particular time. So that's
Well,
kind of my general approach to
I
getting
like
people
that. I
to
like
get
that
their
because you're customizing it to what they need in the moment and what they need to move forward. And I think that's important because everybody has something different going on,
right,
right?
right, and that's why I do groups and
Hmm.
I enjoy doing groups with people, but I really enjoy working with people one on one because it's different with every person, and because one, it helps. It's like I get to be more creative and figure out what's going on with them, but we go in a lot deeper than I can in a group, and I get to know them better, and I get to learn what is really happening with them. One of the things is true for me, I'm sure other people as well, but I seem to be pretty good at seeing things that other people aren't seeing
Mm.
and being able to listen to a client and have them talk and to really understand what's going on underneath, what's hidden, and to bring it into light, because those are things that are having a big can be having a big impact without the person even knowing it.
Well, things can get, swept under the rug too. So in
Yeah,
knowing
yeah, the
How,
things that,
and in a group setting, you can easily kind of step back and go, well, maybe they won't call on me.
oh,
But
I don't let people get away with
yeah,
that.
yeah, I know that about you. So do you identify as ADHD
Oh,
then?
absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
so that's
Though,
great
though
because
I'm an interesting case. I found out 10 years ago at age 69.
Wow.
And so adults, adults are often diagnosed when they wasn't seen in childhood.
Mm.
Um, and that can be particularly true for women because, you know, sort of the typical image of a child that is a little boy running around the room, can't sit still.
Yeah,
Little
yeah.
girls don't generally do that. A few, I've talked to a few who do, but generally they sit there and they're quiet. They're kind of daydreaming. They're looking at the window, and they're more commonly have been anyway more commonly diagnosed as with depression,
Oh.
and that's still happening somewhat, but
Mm.
it's getting more and more known that there's a type of ADHD called inattentive, which women are much more likely to have, and so the medical profession is really getting to understand that a lot more, so women don't kind of
Fall through the cracks.
yeah, exactly, that was what I was looking for.
Wow, that's powerful because yes, you always seem to think it's more of a male trend than female, but it can affect anybody. So just
Right.
in knowing what some of those, for lack of a better term, symptoms are, people can start to self-identify, and then people can know that they need to reach out and get some help, right?
Sure. Yeah. And
So
I was going to
go ahead.
say, I mean, I'm always willing to have a conversation with somebody who is struggling in some way to just find out what it is that's going on. And again, I'm not a medical professional. I can't diagnose, but I know quite a bit. I've been working with ADHD for a long time. So I can recognize it when I hear people talk about it, and at least say to somebody, what you're telling me does in fact sound like it. I think you should see a professional to really find out. And as I
Mhm.
said, I've coached people who haven't been diagnosed. I've actually said, I think given what you're telling me, I think you probably have it, and I think you should go get evaluated. But not everybody wants to do that, and I still certainly happy to work with people.
Mhm. So, is there a different way that you would, are there like different approaches in helping someone that has ADHD as opposed to someone who doesn't when it comes to like procrastination and productivity?
Yes, definitely. Like I said a few minutes ago about being motivated, the difficulty of being motivated to get stuff done that we don't really want to do. That's not something that's so typical of people we call neurotypicals. Those are people who don't have ADHD. We don't use the term normal, right?
What
Um,
is normal?
yeah. So there are a lot of because of the brain chemistry and the way the ADHD brain is different than the neurotypical brain, it often requires different kinds of interventions and strategies that work for people who don't have ADHD. So I'm very cognizant of that, but and primarily the strategies that I've worked with and I work with, are ones that are designed for people with ADHD.
Right. But you can work with anybody.
Oh
It's
yeah, for
not like,
sure. And I have over the years worked with many people who don't have it,
mhm.
but it is my what we call my target market, entrepreneurs with ADHD.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, let talk about the accountability side of things because I think anybody, especially entrepreneurs, we work on our own a lot. We need to have that portion of accountability. Talk more about that. I think you have a program, right?
Well, yeah, I'm starting an accountability group. Um, yes, having an accountability structure is very effective. There was a study done, I don't even know exactly when, but they looked at different situations in terms of goal achievement, and somebody who had a set appointment for accountability, they knew that they were going to be talking to somebody at a certain point, had a 95% chance of achieving their goal.
Wow.
And I think the next one down was like 60%. Still some kind of accountability, but not that's quite so structured.
Right.
And with an accountability group where we have, you know, we'll be meeting weekly, and each week people will make commitments to do something for the next session. And at the beginning of the session, everybody will check in and say how they did, and if they got stuck in some way, then we'll look at that and I'll coach them to help them get past that.
Mm-hmm.
And so having that is having that structure, and they're going to be accountability buddies and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, and it just makes a huge difference. I mean, for many people, but particularly for people with ADHD, to have that structure
Mm-hmm.
in getting stuff done.
And I think there is something to be said to be in a group because people always like to be helpful to other people. So they're invested a bit. They have like skin in the game to show up each week, not just to share what they've been accountable to, but to help others stay accountable. That makes
And
a
the
big
other
difference.
side of it is seeing that other people are struggling with some of the same things. ADHD still has a stigma.
Mm-hmm.
It's called attention deficit disorder or hyperactivity disorder. It's not a disorder, it's a condition, it's a different brain chemistry.
Right.
And it's not actually attention deficit because there's two sides to it. There's something called hyperfocus, which is people get kind of zero in on something and they get lost in it. You know, they're working on something, and 2 hours later they come up
Right.
for air and they realize, oh, there was all this other stuff they were going to do. So it's really,
It's mislabeled, really, isn't
yeah,
it?
it, it,
Mm.
it, it really is. It's really, oh God, I can't even, it's attention regulation, not attention deficit. And it's not a disorder. It's a condition.
Yeah.
And
I
hopefully
like that.
someday.
I like that distinction, but people see that label now and I don't even know if they see it as a disorder. They see it as the acronym. They see it as I can self-identify with that and I need to find more ways to be productive or to focus on the right things as well. That's a big
But there,
part of it.
but there's still people who hear that and think there's something wrong with the person, or I can't. I mean, there are some, and there are even medical professionals who say, "Well, there really is no such thing as ADHD," which is just nonsense.
Right.
Um, but and people who as kids are diagnosed, or even if they're not diagnosed, they get a lot of negative stuff. You're not
Hmm.
working hard enough. You should do better. Blah blah blah, and they carry that with them for a long time. So part of the work I do with people is help them change that way of seeing themselves. That
Wow, that's
there
important.
isn't something wrong with them.
Hmm.
They have a different brain chemistry than the general population that makes certain things more challenging. But also there are gifts of ADHD. People with ADHD are incredibly creative. A lot of artists and musicians and scientists uh, have ADHD. Steve Jobs, um, Bill Gates. Uh,
It's
they think that
interesting.
Van Gogh had ADHD, things like that, right?
Yeah.
And so very creative, very good with people. You'll find a lot of people in helping professions with ADHD. A lot of entrepreneurs have ADHD because of the creativity and also not liking to be in a structure where somebody else
Yes.
is telling them
The
what to do.
freedom. Yeah.
So there is this thing that's come up recently, like people talk about ADHD as their superpower because of there are really things about it that that we have, most of us have, that are much stronger than again the general population.
Hmm. And it's interesting, Ted, because that's a lot like how introverts are seen. to in the
Yeah,
public
I
eye,
am one.
you know? Yeah. Well, and I think I think I might be a little ADD. You know, we need to talk
And
off
I don't
camera a
know
little
this for
more.
sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if you did some kind of survey that many people at ADHD are introverts, partly, at least partly, because of the stigma
Hmm.
uh, 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 of it, and it may not meet the specific definition of introverts around where people get energy. I'm somewhat aware of that, but that you know they have they have difficulty with relationships. That very
Hmm.
much so.
Well, I think a lot of it is because they're misunderstood. Like when you were talking
Oh
about
yeah.
how people label them, and we think differently, therefore we have to come across our own way of doing things. And the more people are aware of these ways of being, as opposed to these conditions, these ways of
Hmm.
being, then there's more tolerance, there's more patience in working with people in a specific way.
Right.
I think that's the key.
Right.
So
Right.
you have a free gift too, right? Do you have
Yeah, I have
something?
a free productivity guide. In fact, freeproductivityguide.com is what gets you there. Just
That's so simple.
see that in the comments. Yeah, and it's
Yeah, I'll
called
throw it in.
five productivity killers that are sabotaging your business and how to bust them. And it's
Ooh,
very practical and deals with five different behaviors that can really have a detrimental effect on somebody's productivity and success. And it
well, there
doesn't
you
just
go.
apply to people with ADHD, but that is so people without who don't have it don't identify with. But the things like interruptions and multitasking and procrastination, whoever you are and whatever your situation is, if you're doing those things, it's really hurting your productivity.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Um, so how do people get a hold of you then if they're interested in that accountability group program?
Well, my email address is coachtedb@gmail.com. But just look in the comments because I know Lorraine is going to put it there. So you
Yeah,
don't
I'll
have to try to remember it.
throw it in there.
You can
There we go.
just look in the comments and the information will be there. Yeah, just drop me an email and we'll set up a time to talk whether about the group or about something else. Always happy to talk to people.
Well, this has been really great. Let's one last thing is maybe what's your biggest tip to give someone who's needing to and you're like save that for the paid program.
Oh
What's
boy, biggest tip that's oh,
of
I
the
don't know.
moment, whatever
Yeah.
pops into your head. There's probably
Um,
really good tips all around.
yeah. Oh my God. Put me on the spot here.
Sorry.
Um, okay, well, here's something. Uh, we know of Nike, right? Just do it.
Yep.
But just do it is really anathema to people with ADHD because it brings up that difficulty and the shame. So just start it. If you're having
Ooh.
trouble with doing something, don't worry. Just like do 5 minutes, literally. Say, okay, I can do 5 minutes. So just start, do 5 minutes, and at the end of 5 minutes, if you don't want to do anymore, that's fine. But what's likely to happen is you're going to, at least for a little while, keep going because you're in motion. It's a law of physics that a body in motion stays in motion. So if you can get in motion just by starting, it can take you at least some distance uh, into whatever it is you're working on, and then you do that for 15, 20, whatever minutes, half an hour, then you can stop and then you come back and promise you got to start again. But
But
that
oh,
is it.
that's
Don't I think I've got to do this? I've got to do this. No, just start
mhm.
it. Just
To
start it.
start. I love that. That is really powerful advice. It's simple and it's doable because you just start.
Yeah,
Right?
and
There's no
don't worry.
pressure.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Ted. It's been great to have this chat with you, and we'll have to have you back again. And I'm sure we can have lots to talk about
Okay.
introvert stuff,
Oh
ADD
yeah, for
stuff.
sure. Well, thanks for inviting me, Lorraine. It's really been great to be here, and I just hope that this has been helpful for people. And as I said, I'm always open to setting up a conversation to see what's going on with people.
Yeah, so those of you watching, check out his free productivity guide. Get in touch with him if you want to find more about his accountability group. And as you can see, he has your best interest in mind. And what could be better than that? So thanks so much for being here,
Thank
and
you again, Lorraine.
have a great day.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.